Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar and panel discussion on how to grow your exports in the Middle East halal food sector. My name is Emma Page. I'm a Senior Business Development Manager for Trade and Investment Queensland based in the UAE. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which TIQ is based, the Juggara and Yuggera peoples, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. We're excited to bring together today a panel of industry experts, leaders who have successfully navigated the complexities of doing business across borders and are here to share real-world insights, advice, and experiences. Our goal today is to give you practical tools and perspectives that can help your business identify and pursue opportunities in the dynamic Middle East market. I have joining me today and already on screen, Mr. Qasim Yunus, the Queensland Trade and Investment Commissioner for the Middle East, with over 20 years of experience driving international growth across sectors like agriculture, energy, and sustainability. Mr. Tomas Guerrero, Director of the Halal Trade and Marketing Centre, a global leader in halal market development and one of the Forbes Middle East Top 500 Islamic Economy Influencers. Ms. Mariam Beshawi, Principal Foods Permit Officer at Dubai Municipality, a regional expert in food standards and safety who has led major regulatory innovations. Mr. Ivan White, President of Commercium and a pioneer in organic food distribution in the GCC, with 3 decades of success in launching and scaling FMCG brands. Mr. Damien Story, Sales Commercial Director at Classic Fine Foods, bringing 20+ years of food service leadership and deep expertise in Australian protein to the Middle East market. And Mr. Bruce Carroll, a Queensland entrepreneur living in the UAE and founder of Squish Food Co. and Raw Distribution Global, known for introducing organic acai in the Middle East and bridging wellness innovation between Australia and the region. I also have joining me behind the scenes today my colleagues from TIQ's food team, who are going to help answer any questions that you might have. If you could please type them in the Q&A function and we will do our best to have your questions answered. The webinar will be recorded and shared at a later date, along with a copy of the presentation. And if you're not already working with a TIQ client manager and want to learn more about how we can support you on your global export strategy, please reach out to book in a consultation with TIQ. And now to get us started, I'd like to hand over to my Commissioner for the Middle East, Mr. Qasim Yunus.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you to our colleagues at TIQ, including the marketing and IT team, for organizing this webinar today. Good morning and good afternoon and welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to have you join us today for this important webinar, focusing on the halal and the dynamic opportunity that presents in the Middle East with a focus on the UAE. I would like to extend a special welcome to our Queensland and F&B exporters who join us today. Your presence here reflects a growing interest in engaging with one of the world's most rapidly expanding consumer segments. Also, big thanks to our key speakers today and panelists who join us and are going to give us valuable insights and information about the market and how to navigate the Middle East and focus on the UAE market. Next slide, please. For those who haven't been engaged with TIQ yet, Trade and Investment Queensland is the Queensland Government Trade and Investment Agency. We assist Queensland companies to export their products and services globally and attracting inward investment into the state. We work closely with our colleagues at DFAT, Austrade, allies associations like MLA, Business Chamber Queensland, and other agencies, including the business councils in market and offshore. We have over 27 offices globally, with 8 regional offices in Queensland. Our TIQ Middle East office is based in Abu Dhabi, the capital of the United Arab Emirates. However, we have 4 staff members, and I will introduce them in a minute. And we are actually split between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, supporting companies to enter the market. Next slide. So as I mentioned, myself, I'm the Commissioner. We have an office manager and 2 senior BDMs, including Emma and David Hackett. Both of them, they are really proactive supporting Queensland companies. And Emma is really experienced in the agriculture, food and beverage sector, and she's willing to take any inquiry after this webinar for any Queensland company who wants to enter the market. Next slide, please. The Middle East offers Queensland exporters a unique chance to align their products and services with a market that is both values-driven and commercially vibrant, especially the United Arab Emirates, which is the Queensland and Australia key market in the Middle East. Our current export of food and beverage products into the Middle East, Northern Africa, the first export products is meat. We export over 368 million Australian dollars into the region. Followed by vegetables, we export around 81 million Australian dollars. And the third item is fruits and nuts. We export around 17 million Australian dollars from Queensland. And followed by other feeding stuff, animal fat and edible products, around $28 million. Now, the UAE is our #1 export destination, followed by Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Kuwait, and Qatar. Next slide, please. The UAE plays a significant role in the region as a globally as a trading hub, where Dubai is a hub for private sector, including Dubai is also a hub for financial institutions, and as well is a big hub for logistics, not only for the Gulf region, but also for the Middle East and Africa and neighboring countries, even to India, while Abu Dhabi is the capital of capital. Now, if we compare it to Saudi Arabia is a population of 35 million people, is the largest economy in the Gulf region. The country is deploying over $3.2 trillion in investment, launching over 44 national projects, and opening the country to global traders, investors, and partners backing these projects are backed up by the Vision 2030. The aim of this Vision 2030 is to diversify the economy beyond the oil sector, with tourism and hospitality is at its core. Retailers are expanding in Saudi Arabia. A lot of them are headquartered in the UAE, and the country, the kingdom, is witnessing a large number of hotels, opening new hotels across 3, 4, and 5 stars. So they are seeking quality halal products. This is a very quick, just to highlight the opportunities and why we think the UAE and Saudi Arabia would be a potential market for first-time exporters into the Middle East. Next slide, please. Now, what's driving the growth, trade and investment between Queensland, Australia, and the UAE? Starting the 1st of October 2025 this year, CEPA, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, has been kicked off. It will eliminate tariffs on over 99% of Australia's export by value, with most tariffs eliminated on entry into force. For example, duties on Queensland red meat export to the UAE will be eliminated on entry into force. The 5% duty on honey will be eliminated immediately. This will provide Australia around $64 million of global annual honey export. The UAE, as many of you, or maybe if you're not aware, has prioritized its food security through the National Food Security Strategy 2051. The UAE imports over 90% of its food from around the world. Hence, Australia and Queensland plays a significant role in supplying quality premium and healthy food and beverage products. So opportunities for Queensland lays beyond the meat industry, and I would encourage Queensland companies who haven't thought of exporting into the UAE and beyond is to start considering that. But of course, our panelists today and keynote speakers today will be highlighting, some tips on where are the opportunities, and also what you need to consider when you export to this market. I think I'm going to stop at this point, Emma, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Kasim, for that regional overview and giving us the big picture of opportunities in the region. I'd now like to hand over to Ms. Thomas Guerrero, who's going to give you and share his insights more specifically on halal certification and why that matters in the Middle East. So handing over to Thomas.
Thank you. Good afternoon, to those joining us from Australia. My name is Tomas Guerrero. I'm the director of the Halal Trade and Marketing Center here in Dubai. First of all, I would like to express my deep gratitude to Trade and Investment Queensland for organizing this wonderful event and having me as a speaker. Today, I will go through a quick presentation about the halal F&B market regulation in the GCC and particularly in the United Arab Emirates. So let's start with the presentation. Next, please. Well, I'm sure that many of you are already, let's say, familiar with this concept, but it's always good to start the presentation about the halal legal framework, talking about the halal concept. As you can see on the screen, halal is an Arabic term meaning lawful as per the Islamic law. So when we talk about the halal economy or the halal let's say, sector, we are talking about all those, let's say, sectors affected by the Islamic law, such as food that must be halal, fashion that must be modest, or finance that must be Sharia compliant. So here we have a clear description, a clear definition for this really used concept. Next, please. Well, before going through the authorities and standards regulating this fast-growing business niche, I would like to start my presentation talking about those categories where the halal certification is needed. As you can see on the screen, we have basically categories, F&B categories, where the products are halal by default, by nature, as well as categories where the halal certification is needed, is mandatory. I'm sharing this screen with all of you because sometimes companies, the F&B companies, are thinking in a wrong way because they basically think halal is needed for all the F&B product, but that's not true. So for that reason, I'm coming with this particular slide. So on the left, we have F&B categories where, as I said, the products, the items are halal by nature, by default. We are talking about fruits, vegetables, cereals, nuts, fish. All those F&B products are halal by default, are halal by nature, meaning you don't need the halal certification if you want to export your these products from Australia to the Muslim countries. But let me tell you something. We are talking about raw materials. We are talking about products without any transformation. If we have a transformation, if we have, let's say, a process in place, then we are not talking about a raw material, we are talking about a processed food item. And for the processed food items, the halal certification is needed. So again, for these particular items or F&B products, the halal certification is not needed if you export these products, these F&B items as a raw material from Australia to the UAE or to other Muslim majority countries. Then on the right, we have the categories, the F&B categories where the halal certification is required, is needed, is mandatory, is compulsory. You can see meat, dairy, beverage, sweets, snacks. Well, basically we have two big categories, meat and poultry or meat and meat-related products, and then the processed food items. For these particular products, the halal certification is needed. The halal certification is mandatory. Why? Basically because for meat and poultry, we need, of course, to have a licit animal and then a particular way of slaughtering the licit animal. And for the, let's say, remaining F&B product, for the processed food items, we need to secure that all the ingredients or raw materials to produce the processed food item are halal, and we have at the same time to set up a traceability system to avoid cross-contamination. So that's why we need the halal certification for meat and meat-related products, as well as for all the processed food items. So this is a very important point, because again, I met companies in Australia, but also in other countries across the globe, thinking, okay, the halal certification is needed, must be there for all types of F&B products. And as you can see on the screen, that's not right. So we have some products where the halal certification is not needed. You can export them without the halal certification to the UAE, as well as to other countries in the Middle East. So next, please. Well, once we have a clear idea about the F&B products needing the halal certificate for being able to export, now we will talk about the authorities regulating the halal market across the globe. So when we look at the halal market, we find different types of authority, regulatory bodies. So first of all, in the Muslim majority countries, including the UAE, we have the halal standardization bodies. They are in charge of elaborating the standards, the rules. They are the ones coming up with the requirements. So here, for example, in the United Arab Emirates, we have MOIAD, the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. So MOIAD in the UAE is the body in charge of elaborating the halal standard, those applicable here in the United Arab Emirates. Then also in the Muslim majority countries, we have the halal accreditation bodies. The halal accreditation bodies are those entities in charge of auditing the certifiers, not the companies, the halal certification bodies. They are the ones checking if the certifiers have or not the technical and religious capabilities for being able to audit and provide the companies with the halal certificate according to the standards in the Muslim majority countries. So for example, here in the United Arab Emirates, we have two halal accreditation bodies. One in Dubai, the Emirates International Accreditation Center, another one in Abu Dhabi, the Emirates National Accreditation System. Both are federal entities, and at the end of the day, both are those providing the halal accreditation for the UAE to those halal certification bodies looking for, let's say, the UAE approval for being able to audit and certify companies, producers, F&B producers, trying to export their products to the United Arab Emirates. And then, finally, we have the halal certification bodies, okay? And we can find them in the Muslim countries, but also in the non-Muslim ones. They are, let's say, everywhere. And they are private companies. So they are the ones auditing the companies, the producers, and providing them with the halal certification. Basically, they are the ones visiting your facilities to check if you are able to produce, let's say, F&B items according to the existing halal standards. So those are, let's say, the halal regulatory bodies regulating the halal market across the globe. Please, next. Well, we saw the regulatory bodies. Now let's talk about the standards, because I'm sure later on we will see the business opportunities. This market is huge, it's plenty of opportunities. We are talking about 1.9 billion Muslim population, 57 Muslim majority countries, different sectors. F&B is one of them, one of the most important ones. So it's a huge market, but at the same time, this market is becoming, let's say, a bit challenging. Why? Because we don't have a global halal standard. We have different rules, different standards for regulating the same market across the Muslim world. And that's why we have different standards. The most important ones, you can find them here on the screen. So when we look at the halal standards, we can find international standards, regional standards, as well as national standards. So we have to double check this before exporting our products. And we have to inform in advance to the certifier about the target market. Why? Because sometimes the applicable standards, the requirements, let's say, are not the same. And this, again, is a bit challenging, it's a bit risky, because when you compare the existing halal standard, at the end of the day, most of the time they are saying the same, they are coming with the same requirement, but you can find cases where the requirements are not, let's say, matching, are not the same. For example, here in the GCC today, we have for poultry a different, let's say, approaches. We have the UAE one, where basically we are accepting stunning under certain parameters for poultry, and we have the remaining GCC countries not accepting any form of stunning for poultry. So, see, same region, same approach in principle, but for poultry, we have different requirements regarding stunning. So we have to double check because we don't have a global halal standard. There are some organizations trying to harmonize the existing rules and accreditation practices as well, but today we have this particular situation. So based on the target market, we will have to meet, we will have to comply with one or another standard. And as I told you, they are saying almost the same, most of the time the same, but for some particular items or some particular questions or matters, sometimes they are coming with different approaches or different interpretation, let's say. So this is another important point to take into account. Next, please. And well, we will finalize talking about the United Arab Emirates halal legal framework. Okay, so here we have one slide with many logos, as you can see on the screen. So I will try to explain you why. Basically, we have 4 lines. We will go one by one explaining the logos there. So the first line is for the halal standardization bodies. As I said, here in the United Arab Emirates, we have one halal standardization organization or body, is MOIAT, the Ministry, our Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. So MOIAT is the body in charge of elaborating the halal rules or standards for regulating the F&B sector here in the United Arab Emirates. Today we have basically 2 standards for regulating F&B items from the halal point of view in the United Arab Emirates. We have the UAE 993 for regulating meat and poultry, and we have at the same time the UAE 255 for regulating processed food items. So these 2 rules or standards are the applicable ones here in the United Arab Emirates for F&B products. But as you can see, on the same line, we have more logos. Why? Basically because the United Arab Emirates is part of the GCC, as we already saw on Kassen's presentation. So because of that, we also have to accept, we also have to, let's say, recognize the halal standards or the halal rules coming from the GCC Standardization Organization. The GCC Standardization Organization is the regional halal standardization body, and they came with halal standard. By the way, these standards, the GCC Standardization Organization ones, are the applicable ones in the remaining GCC countries. But here in the UAE, even when we are accepting and recognizing these regional standards, the applicable ones are the MOIAT ones. And we have another logo. Why? Basically because the UAE is also part of the OIC, the Organization for the Islamic Cooperation. And the Organization for the Islamic Cooperation has a halal standardization body based in Turkey. Okay, it's called SMIC. So SMIC or CIMIC is the halal standardization body for the 57 Muslim majority countries, including the United Arab Emirates. Same idea. We have to accept the halal standards coming from SMIC or CIMIC, but the applicable ones are the MOIAT ones here in the United Arab Emirates. Then we have a second line. Here we have 3 new logos. We have the logos for the UAE halal accreditation Bodies, I already talked about them. EIAC in Dubai, the Emirates International Accreditation Center, INAS in Abu Dhabi. So basically, if you are a halal certifier, if you are a halal certification body, you have to get the halal accreditation from EIAC or INAS in order to be able to issue valid halal certificate for your companies, okay? And then we have another logo. It's the logo from the GCC Accreditation Center. Same idea. UAE is part of the GCC. In the GCC, or for the region, we have also a halal accreditation body. We have a halal standardization body, the GCC Standardization Organization, and at the same time, we have a halal accreditation body. It's called the GCC Accreditation Center. So this body is the one in charge of auditing and approving those certifiers, looking for having, let's say, the recognition from the 6 Arab nations here in the GCC. So today, UAE is also accepting the halal certifications coming from certifiers accredited by the GCC Accreditation Center. But I have, let's say, bad news. Next year, we will be no longer accepting the certifiers or the certifications coming from certifiers accredited by the GCC Accreditation Center. We will be only accepting halal certificates coming from certifiers accredited by EIAC or INAS. But today, the certifications coming from certifiers accredited by the GCC Accreditation Center are still valid. And then we have the third line. And here we can see 5 logos. These logos belong to the certifiers in Australia accredited today or approved today by the UAE. So let's say you are lucky because in your country you have different options. I saw countries where you can't find any single halal certification body accredited by the UAE, but there in Australia you can, let's say, compare, you can choose, you can see which one is the best one for your product, for your interest. And as you can see here, you have 5. Today, you have 5 certifiers in Australia accredited, approved by the UAE Halal Authority. So through them, through any one of them, you can export your product without any problem or limitation to the United Arab Emirates. And finally, here in the UAE, we have a halal national brand or mark, okay? So you can see the logo also here in the 4th line. So basically, we have a nice marketing tools for those companies looking for having let's say, a fancy halal logo on top of the product. So if you want to use the UAE halal brand or mark, you have to, let's say, pay Moyad for the license, and you will be able to use it. Next. Well, that's all from my side. If you have any question, any doubt, any comment, later on we can continue the discussion, but I will finalize saying thank you again to the organizers as well as to all of you for joining us today, and I will be able for future questions and comments. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Thomas. That was a very insightful and in-depth presentation on the requirements currently in the region. Just quickly, a question that we've had, and you've alluded to it in the presentation already, like there are some recent changes that have been made. Apart from what you've just spoken about, is there anything else that Queensland companies need to be aware with, like upcoming changes to the standards or policies?
Well, we have the new 993. We were talking about the poultry case. So this, let's say, new version of the UA 993 is coming basically with this point. Now we are accepting, standing before, and setting parameters again before the halal slaughtering for poultry. So this is, let's say, the most important thing to take into account today, because the UA 255 remains the same. So the big change or the, let's say, new thing basically is the 993, the new version of the 993 halal standard.
Right, great. Thank you for that. Okay, now I would like to invite Miss Miriam on to join us now, and she will give us an overview of key considerations and product registration in the UAE. Handing over to you, Miriam.
Hello and good morning, and thank you so much as I get a chance to present regarding food labeling requirement here in Dubai municipality. Okay, next. No, that one. Okay, so in the beginning, I will start with a certain statistic that we have it here in Dubai Municipality Food Safety Department that annual food import here in Dubai reached over 8 million tons annually. We have more than 23,000 operating food establishments in the Emirates and more than 30,000 register and training food handler in different establishments. In our food catalog, we register above 1.3 million food items, and the food beverage import were value of 22.7 million in the beginning of the 2021. Next. Here are certain rules of the food safety department. We have the facilitate food trade activities from import, export to ensure level of the safety. Also, we are doing managed food trade operation to maintain compliance with the safety regulation. In addition, on conduct inspection services across all food establishments in the Emirate, perform a routine inspection to ensure adherence to food safety guidelines that we have it. Also to issue food-related permit to promote transparency and compliance with the regulation in the region. Overseas permit issuance and ensure proper food labeling compliance. In addition, we conduct food risk assessment studies and monitor global food safety trends. We also perform study to identify and assign potential food-related risk. Next. The journey of food import to Dubai starts with the food company registration, where business must obtain a UAE-based trade license and register their company details through DM website. Once register the company, the second step will be a food registration, which ensure that all food products are approved prior to import and that all labels intended for direct consumer sale and properly assessed and comply with the food label standard. And the final stage involves import procedure where importer must ensure total all required document is available and prepare for physical inspection in the port. We have two services, which is the food item registration and we have food label assessment. The purpose of food item registration is to enable the food trader to apply for health certificate, import the product and sell it in the retail market, doing lab tests in the DCL. However, label assessment is to inform the food trader about labeling regulation and the requirement that we are using in the UAE. We have two different application channel that can apply for registration. We have the IRS system, which is through Dubai Municipality website, and we also have the ZAAD system, which is federal system, so other emirates can apply on it. For the label assessment, it's the service for Dubai basically, so IRS provide this service, and for a federal level, if the food trader have Dubai license, they can apply through it. Item registration is free of charge. However, label assessment is 7 dirham per item, which I mean by application every time they can apply. Is it mandatory registration? Yes, for all food products. For a food label assessment, it's only required if the product will be sold in the UAE. Next. Here's the definition of food label. It's consider any tag, clarification mark, picture, or pictorial or other descriptive matter printed or stamped placed on the food package is a such a way that cannot be detached from the package or removed easily. Labeling is required for most prepared foods such as bread, cereal, infant products, dessert, drink. The label should be attached to the container with food without prejudice to the interest of consumer as deemed appropriate by relevant authority. Next. The purpose of food item registration, as I mentioned before, without registration, the food trader cannot be able to import food item to the country or do the test in the DCL or apply for health certificate or sell the product in retail market. Next. Our service is 100% online, so the food trader can apply through the DM website or through the federal website ZAT. Okay, next. For the standard, we have two entities, which is the MOIAD, Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. And we have also on the level of the GCC, which is the GSO, GCC Standardization Organization. So both of them, we are following their standard to apply on food product. Next. For the general standard, here are certain food standards that apply on all food products. So the food trader should have a look and check all the requirement of the labeling or importing or the lab test that apply for all food product. Next. Also, here are other standards that need to take in consideration if your product under them, if you claim your product is organic or halal or GMO. So each one of them has its own requirement also. In addition, there is some type of products such as drinking water, energy drink, dairy product, or fruit-based drinks that need to be taken in the beginning the approval from the MOIA to get the quality mark. Yeah, next. So I will start a small brief about certain standards, which is the general standard, and we will start with the labeling requirement. Labeling requirement apply to all labeling of prepacked food to be offered as such to the consumer or for catering or restaurant without alteration to the packaging, as well as to certain aspects relating to the presentation, therefore. Next. There are the main information should be declared on the food label. From our side, when applying online through our website, food trader required to provide the artwork in addition to the packaging of the product. So these information are the main information that need to be on the food product. Next. For the language that need to be declared on the food label, Arabic label is required and other language are optional if you want to add it or not to add it. Next. This is the second general standard, which is the requirement of nutritional labeling. Nutrient content should be declared as shown, and there are more than, if I am not wrong, more than 10 formats. You can use it, and these are the main information that need to be provided on the nutrition information. Next. For the food additive, we have also standard. So basically, when item contain any food additive component, we need to check that it's verified or not. So as based the standard in the beginning, the food trader should use the Codex Alimentarius should be taken as a first reference to determine the maximum limit of food permit and if it is allowed or not, and to check the classification of the product is available or not. Then, in case the food additive is not available in the Codex and there is no information on it, it is possible to shift to the Europa database And in case it's not available in the Codex or Europa, it means that the food additive is not allowed and we cannot accept it. Next. Other standard is the permitted health and nutrition claim made on food and their conditional use. Health claim can be verified from the EU Health Claim Database website as following, as I attached here. Each claim has its own requirement in a food that we can use in the food product. So you cannot claim the product is support immunity and you are not meet the requirements. You cannot claim it high in fiber and the product has no fiber. So there is a requirement and food traders should check if it is authorized to use this claim or not in the beginning. Next. This is also another standard which is regarding the residual amount of the ethanol in food product. This is standard specification pertain to the maximum limit of residual ethanol result from natural fermentation in food use as a flavor solvent, which are considered acceptable for a food to be regarded as a free from ethanol. The ethanol content naturally present in the food should not exceed the maximum limit. And based on the standard, there is, I think, 2 pages that contain so many products, and each of the product has acceptable limit to the ethanol level. So this is some example that the amount that acceptable in food product. In addition, if the product has added alcohol or has been dealcoholized during the process, it's not allowed and banned. Level of alcohol ethanol in food is not related to the safety or quality of the product, but rather the requirement of halal ruling in Islamic law. Next. Also, we have regarding infant formula and follow-on formula. This is standard scope. It's applied to infant formula from the birth until 36 months in a form of liquid and powder form. In Dubai municipality, we are only check and assess food infant formula that are normal food. However, for the infant formula for example, malnutrition, anticolic, or constipation or diarrhea, these are fall under Ministry of Health. So the food traders should follow with them. The standards include the product quality, labeling requirement, and safety criteria. Also, the standard prohibit use any health claim that need to clear on the food product. So only when marketing any claim is not accepted. Only suitable for infant from birth until the introduction of appropriate complementary food is allowed to be added on the label. As a picture I attach is nutritional information contains certain vitamin and mineral. For each stages, it has different amount and specification. So you need to check these amount before applying online and import the item to the country. Next. There are some of declared or component are not allowed to be used in food product. As you can see, alcohol, beverage name, pork related, some certain of seed which are considered as narcotic as per Ministry of Health, image of any religious significant or currently culturally inappropriate image. The above is not comprehensive list. We have a long list that is not prohibited to be declared or to use an image. So that's why we always require food trader apply online through our website to check if this allowed or not. Okay, next. Okay, so I will put here a quick for the Australia statistic. Until now in item catalog, the product that has been registered, it's around 29,986 products that register in our database. Next. And here are some non-compliance remark that we found generally through this year about the Australian labeling, which is the Arabic label is not declared. Certain health claims are not accepted, and nutrition information are missing information and not complying with our regulation. Next. is a customer journey. As I mentioned before, the food trader must apply online for registration and label assessment and attach all the required documents. Wait for the approval. Once they get you approval, you can import or sell the product in the country. Next. Next. Okay, for imported food product, here are certain documents that are required. Here are the halal certificate, which is a document issued by authorized body from the country of origin. And these are all the information that needed to be declared in the halal certificate. The original certificate must be provided during inspection. Next. Also for halal certificate, the same requirement that need to be declared on the certificate, and the original halal certificate should be also provided to you during inspector for the shipment. Next. Here also a website that you need to check for the halal certification bodies in the UAE. Okay, next. And feel free if you want to contact us through email or through the phone. These are our emails and phone to contact us. And thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. That was a very detailed overview of what's required for product registration. And I suppose to highlight to the audience, you don't actually have to know all of this yourself. That's why it's so important to find a good import partner, because they're the ones that have to be up to date with all these rules and regulations and certifications and what's allowed and what's changing. But I do want to throw a couple of questions to you right now, because we've got some that have been asked already. So the first one is, we've been advised that honey exports into the UAE are going to require the Emirates quality mark. So we noticed that that wasn't on the presentation. Can you confirm this and advise if there's any other product categories that have recently been affected by similar changes with the EQM?
For the EQM, until now, the same list as we have it for the dairy,
Okay.
dairy and drink, energy drink and water.
Okay, so currently not required. So for the ones that are required currently, are you able to advise a little bit about what that process involves?
I'm not sure about it because it's under the Ministry of Industry, so they have their own criteria to check the product quality. So from our side, we always check with them, see what is the requirement, then apply online for registration.
Okay, perfect. And then I have one more question for you before we go to the panel discussion. So we understand that product registration with the Abu Dhabi Food Safety Department may restrict imports to Abu Dhabi ports only, and similarly products registered with Dubai municipality would be limited to entry via Dubai ports. Can you confirm if that is the case?
From our side, Dubai municipality, if the product will be imported to the country and use any port in Dubai, the product should be registered with Dubai municipality. Then if they want to shift the shipment to another Emirates, they can apply. We have a service for transfer shipment to other Emirates.
Okay, likewise. And so that would the similar, if they registered it with another Emirates and then wanted to ship to Dubai, they would have to apply to be allowed to do that.
Yes.
Okay, amazing. Brilliant. What I'm going to do now is bring all of your fellow presenters on the screen, and we are going to have a discussion about the Middle East food sector. Okay. If everyone can please turn their microphones on. We've been given a lot of information just right now, and I would like to get the rest of the panel involved in the discussion and share their experience. So I'm going to open the panel discussion up with a question for Ivan, Damien, and Bruce. from your extensive experience in the region across both retail and food service, which product categories are currently in high demand in the UAE and Saudi or across the region? And are there any major differences between the different regions in the Middle East, particularly focusing on the UAE and Saudi? So, Ivan, let's start with you.
Basically, the health and wellness is basically exploding. Health, wellness, and post-COVID, you will find that people are basically looking for the healthy range. They're looking for, but one of the big momentous change is the gluten-free health diet. Everybody really, really wants to be slim, active. However, the gluten-free is a huge trend at this minute, both in the UAE and in Saudi, particularly in Saudi, where the population is a lot bigger. And also the amount of gluten intolerance, the celiac, is basically huge and very, very big in the Saudi Arabian market. The difference between the UAE and the Saudi Arabia is that in the Saudi Arabia, you've got a 35 million population. The UAE, you have about a floating population that comes in and goes out, and you have a lot more, should I say, a lot more wider, knowledgeable consumers in the UAE than you do have in Saudi. So there's a big demand for healthy food products, but not enough information in Saudi. Whereas in the UAE, the Dubai municipality is extremely active in putting information out there. It's extremely active in helping companies and helping people, consumers, decide what to choose. And basically, as Miriam just said, putting products and making sure that the right products go onto the shelves. But yeah, the explosion right now, and I have to cap it, is health and wellness.
Yeah, that is what I hear from everybody that I talk to. Damien, what are you seeing, given Classic's focus on premium produce and in the food service sector, but also retail as well?
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for getting me involved in this conversation. Appreciate it. And thanks to all of the Australian guys. Spent a lot of time there. So yeah, let me sort of break it down into sort of UAE, KSA, and Oman. So Classic, obviously being a sort of high-end supplier, we're tending to find a lot of customers want niche items, and particularly in I would say, the oils, seafood, and protein. Within the UAE, with the explosion and continues to be of restaurants, hotels, and more hotels opening up almost on a monthly basis, the consumers on the chefs, and we were with a lot of chefs last night, are always looking for something that's a little bit special. So on the fine dining side and the sort of 5-star hotels, they're continuing to look at, I would say, products that will add value and be something different on their menus within the UAE. Oman have got 6 to 9 hotels opening up next year, and a lot of those are your global brands, and they're looking for, I would say, they're more of a mainstream type product range, which we can also offer, and looking at the products that are available from Australia, we would fit nicely into that market. In KSA for Classic, we're in Riyadh, we're in Jeddah, and we're opening up in Mecca. That's a very different market for us right now. Most of the customers, particularly in hotels, are looking for a lesser value product. So not so much are looking for your high-end chocolate, your high-end seafood or protein. They're more looking for a grass-fed offering, and they're not that, I would say, not that more inclined to spend as much money as they would do in the UAE and Oman. So that's what we're seeing in those 3 markets currently in terms of the high-end offering.
Right, thank you for that. Bruce, as both a distributor, but also responsible building your own brand, what have your observations been?
Yeah, thanks, Emma, and good morning to those in the UAE. Good afternoon to those in Queensland, Australia. I think I'd have to reiterate Ivan's comments earlier in my experience, the UAE and wider GCC have become increasingly, I guess, health focused over the past 24 to 36 months. The health and wellness sector will continue to expand, in my opinion, and is certainly following Australia's lead from a functional and nutritional perspective. Products and services that work in this sector and follow this movement or work in synergy with this movement will enjoy sustained growth. I think it's also important to note Saudi Arabia has evolved rapidly in recent years. This has been supported by His Royal Highness's positive initiatives in market. You've also got a younger emerging market that's well-traveled and becoming more understanding, I guess, of global trends and trends abroad. And in that way, again, coming back to my particular space, when you're looking at health and wellness, that's been accepted really well from our perspective in Saudi Arabia. Another important factor to note, I think, is a growing female demographic in Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of market opportunities aligned to this particular demographic, and it's become a key focus for many industries, not just food and beverage. I find it's always refreshing and great to engage at expos in Saudi Arabia. Consumers are quite well informed. They ask intelligent questions and genuinely want to understand our products. So overall, as a quick sum up, I place the UAE around 2 to 3 years behind Australia in trend maturity, and Saudi perhaps 2 to 3 years behind the UAE. However, those markets are catching up very quickly. And I think to Damien's point also in relation to Oman, the interest we've received from Oman of late has been incredible as well. I'll be over there this Friday, Saturday. So yeah, Oman's definitely something to keep an eye on, a market to keep an eye on.
Thanks, Bruce. Thomas, from a halal perspective, are there any trends that you're seeing?
Well, we think non-alcoholic beverages are booming, so there is a good opportunity for producers in Queensland thinking about zero beverage. We saw in the previous year growth in that particular segment, so this is something to take into account, and not only because the Muslim population can't drink alcohol, it's also because of the let's say wellness and healthy trend. So this is a nice niche to do business today. Also, organic, bio, natural products are there. I'm thinking now, for example, about alternative dairy products are also growing. So I think this is another interesting, let's say, space to do business. So yeah, those categories where we are importing almost everything, right? Around the 85% of the food that we are consuming is coming from abroad. No, we are net importers in terms of F&B products. So there are opportunities for almost everything, but these, let's say, new categories are now booming and offering very good new opportunities.
And are you seeing more of a trend for products that might not require halal certification, but using that halal branding as a marketing tool in the region, just to give the customer assurance that it is halal, that it is safe to consume?
True. This is another interesting point because producers, for example, olive oil or some, let's say, halal by default products are getting the halal certification. And they're using the halal certificate, as you said, as a, let's say, marketing tool to differentiate themselves from their competitors, to catch the attention of the consumers, to basically sometimes even increase the prices a bit, because some of them, they said, if you have the halal certification, you are able, not for all the products, but some specific product, you are able even to increase a bit the prices. So yes, it's a tool to basically do more business. It's a way of generating trust also. because when you are exporting from a non-Muslim country, sometimes, let's say, the doubt is there, no? The question mark is, okay, this product is coming from Australia, from Queensland, it's a non-Muslim country. Okay, it seems it's halal by default, but today the industry is becoming more and more sophisticated. So maybe there is an ingredient, maybe there is something, generating a cross-contamination, or it's not halal 100%. So the halal certification will be always helping you to generate trust and sell more products.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Ivan and Bruce, from your experience, like around branding, marketing outside of that halal mark, you were talking about like organic, gluten-free, there's certain like brands or that it's trending that's becoming more important, where before you might not have put emphasis on promoting it? Is that with the organic movement, is that something that you're encouraging people to market?
Ivan, did you want to go first, or?
You go first.
Well, Bruce, you're...
Yeah, I could jump in. Basically, I think, sure, to Ivan's point earlier, the gluten-free is very strong. Also, natural key in this area. Sugar-free is another key USP that we focus on. You could start to look and venture at like low FODMAP, this type of thing moving forward with, again, to Ivan's point, with irritable bowel syndrome being quite prevalent across the region in general. So sure, yeah, there are certain USPs that we like to hone in on.
And moving from sort of a branding, marketing, and just like taking a step back in terms of like taste preferences, packaging, is there anything that you should be aware of? Like with your products, for example, Bruce, we've had conversations about like sugar content and preferences for how sweet something is.
That's a constant hurdle, obstacle, I guess. So typically this region they do favor a sweeter flavor profile. That being said, I've noted recently, more so in the UAE, that higher sweetness is being commented on in a lot of our products. As in, if we come in to do a taste test or whatever it might be, they will start to opt for a sugar-free version, or as in no sugar when you're looking at acai, which is very new for me, to be honest. Like if I look back over the past 10 years, our sales in pure unsweetened acai were very, very low, 5 to 10% really. And over the past 6 months, yeah, there's been a definite increase from that angle. So people are becoming more aware, I guess, of sugar intake and what's good and bad for you. And the flavor profiles are adjusting accordingly. In my space anyway, they're opting for, I guess, a lower sweetness profile, if that's a good way to put it, in general.
Yeah, that makes sense. Damien, what about from your perspective? Are you seeing any new trends, like in terms of like flavor profiles? Like you talked about grass-fed with the meat before, but in other categories, are you noticing anything from chefs from a food service perspective, changing taste preferences?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at the advance of restaurants now and the way that they look at product, there is certainly more of a health factor that they look at, like we talked about grass-fed. But if you look at the boom of the sort of pan-Asian, Japanese type restaurants, it's all to do with flavor profile and umami. So they're looking to see where they can get that balance of flavors across the different types of restaurants. And also, I would say, and it's sort of like different to what they're maybe looking at in retail, one of the key bits that they look at from us from a pastry and bakery point of view is always that sweetness. So I think there's two different perspectives there. You've got the retailer, if you want to call it the end consumer, that are looking for more health-driven products that have, and I see this in retail, the reduced sugar or no sugar. But if you look at the restaurant perspective, and we're working with a huge restaurant group right now, where they're looking to increase the amount of chocolate that they have within their pastry and bakery offering. We're actually working with the pastry and bakery suppliers they're in today, where we can look at doing more of that, adding more into and it's more pure chocolate into those types of products. So yes, within retail, they're looking at more healthy, and within the restaurants, there's people still go out for that dining, for that real sort of exclusive taste, where we're looking at lots of different products across all of the ranges. But very much there's a key focus, as we've seen in the last couple of years, on the pastry and bakery side, where they're looking to add some more additional product into there. So it's very different where the end consumer are looking for it, and the restaurant groups are looking for something different.
Right, so healthy at home and indulge while you're out.
Yeah, indeed. I think that's what everybody likes. You can go out for one restaurant a month and enjoy, and then stay healthy for the rest of the month. So absolutely, yeah, that's how it appears to be.
Exactly. Ivan, I want to go on a little bit of a different tangent now, and talk about finding a good partner in the region. As I mentioned before, I said there's a lot for everyone to take in terms of the halal requirements, labeling, product registration, organic certification, all of those sorts of things. How important is it to find a good distribution partner? And what would you consider the most important factors when choosing a local partner? So for Queensland companies looking for the right person to import their products and distribute them.
One of the biggest issues that we have, there's a lot of importers, extreme. However, choosing an importer and a distributor is not, you need to really look at the person and the company that understands the laws of the land. Whether it's be in Saudi, UAE, you need an importer who understands basically the packaging laws, the packaging laws constantly are with changing with different. Importer needs to understand the laws of packaging, the navigate, to distribute, navigate how retail works, navigate how HoReCa works. So you need a strong, not necessarily a very big partner. You need a company that can collaborate and understand the importing rights, and the constantly understanding basically the importation requirements for each market, whether it be in the UAE, Saudi, Qatar, Bahrain. I mean, it's not one product fits all. You really need to understand how to register the product. This importer needs to understand the registration part of it, and understand navigating the retail, because retail is a minefield. So making sure that the right advice gets to the gets through the exporter. And this is a constant change, because the importer must give the right information back on packaging requirements, what is allowed in terms of packaging, what you can put on your packaging. And furthermore, to do your due diligence on the importer as well is very, very important. How do they measure up in retail? How is their basically warehousing? How is their route to market? These are really, really important questions to be answered when you're exporting a product.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be a costly mistake if you don't take those things into consideration when choosing a partner. Bruce, you've been operating in the region for quite a few years now and worked with several Australian Queensland brands in the region, as well as successfully launching your own brand. What are some of the hurdles that you faced when you first entered the market, and taking into consideration what Ivan's talked about? Is there any do's or don'ts that you would share with someone thinking about doing business in this part of the world?
I think, just quickly and off topic, I think I mentioned yesterday, Emma, but my thick Australian Queensland accent was definitely a hurdle when I initially started working here. I think doing pitches, you naturally get a little bit nervous and you speak quickly. And I learned several years later that in those earlier pitches, some people didn't understand a word I said. So slow everything down when you are speaking to potential distributors or potential customers. Articulate your words, because as an Australian, it's easy for us to understand each other, but here it's very multicultural. And I think cultural differences are very, very important as well. You need to always have respect, patience, and clear communication to build that trust. The UAE, GCC in general is very relationship based. That takes time, that takes trust. And yeah, you need to really work at that from that particular side. From a hurdle perspective, Another hurdle that I did face, I think originally to a large degree, I believe Australian pricing. You need to also understand that as an exporter or as an importer, the pricing that we were receiving in some cases were local market wholesale pricing. So always take into consideration that someone based in the UAE needs to export the product. They need to ship it across to the UAE. There's clearance costs, there's storage costs, the virtual merchandising costs, whatever it might be. So it goes on and on. So if you want to ensure your brand remains competitive in market, you need to take into consideration that there should be an export pricing model as well as your local wholesale in Australia.
Well, that sort of leads to a question that I'll pitch to Ivan and Damien. So often brands will find a partner, but then don't succeed in penetrating the market, and they haven't allowed for an appropriate marketing budget in the GCC. Like, can you comment on that? Like, what would be your advice when you're looking at pricing so it's competitive in the market, but also supporting any products that are picked up by an importer distributor? Damien, maybe let's go to you first.
Sure. I think the key bit is to make sure that you're aligned with the exporter into this market. Certainly what I've done in the years that I've been here is to make sure that we get those commercials done right from the start, and then we share that data with the importers or the exporters, should I say. So what we will do is, let's just say one of the guys in Australia or girls in Australia want to export here, we will take those products, we'll do a market intelligence study of where that fits. So is there a gap in the market for those? Is that a product that we believe is going to fit within our remit, as in 5-star hotels, fine dining, etc.? Then what we will do is we'll take those commercials and we'll put those out to, say, 50 to 100 customers, depending on what the product is. Then we'll go back to the exporter, give them the market feedback, as in where those commercials fit. Is it going to work? Is it not? What do we need to do? What's the margin expectation? Then look at where we see that fit. So we will share that information with the exporter. And then from what data that we've gathered, we'll then come up with another strategy of importing that product into the market. And then again, share those customers so that we can define what they look like, what type of customers they're going to be, and then what that agreed price will be. So that's effectively what we've done with most of the Australian importers into this market. And as I say, as you know, last year, Emma, working with the Australian guys, we were very successful in exporting those products into the GCC. So that's the format that I've followed for the time that I've been in market. So that's been very effective. We've seen a great penetration with producers, and then we've gone on to some longevity in terms of the exports into this market also. So that's the strategy that I've used in the time that I've been here.
Right, thanks, Damien. And Ivan, like from your perspective, in terms of like you've signed up a brand, now it's about penetrating the market, but maintaining the brand in the market. Like, what do you expect from a brand partner?
A vision. I really expect the exporter to understand that this is not a ship in, ship out. Have a 5-year plan, have a strategic direction where you want to go, and build that into the model and build that into the agreement with the distributor. Because it's very, very important to make sure your product sits on shelf and has a future on the shelf. Because if you don't have a future on the shelf, or you don't, that product will be lost and it will be out. So you have to hit a certain run number on shelf. So you have to have a strategy of basically getting a really product of substance, a really good product, effective media, effective communication tool, a distribution price. Bruce hit it on the head when he said you've got to basically understand your pricing mechanism, and Damien as well. Do your due diligence and have a strategy that's going to be long term, not a short term, and make sure the distributor or the importer has the same vision as yourself. Make sure that the due diligence is done in such a way that you are not only basically on shelf, but in the category you tend to basically compete in, understand that category very well, and basically put a plan and a strategy in place. And one of the very, very, very important part is understand your HS code. Understanding your HS code allows you to understand your taxation, your excise tax. A lot of people try to import a product and not understanding the excise tax in carbonation, in terms of sugar, and also understanding now is very, very important that those excise tax changes on the 1st of January. So, and if you get that wrong, unfortunately, your pricing is way out then. So really understanding the category, understanding your HS code.
Yeah, that's some great advice there, Ivan. We had a conversation earlier today, and you outlined the importance of AI and data and how it's shaping the retail sector in the region, which for something for Queensland food and beverage exporters need to consider to succeed in market. Can you highlight a little bit of that discussion that we had earlier?
So right now, like I said, strategy. Right now, every distributor, every exporter, every importer needs to understand that they have to build in an AI, should I say, an AI tool. So what's happening now across the GCC? The retailers are putting in an AI system within their shop. So within their basically outlets. So you're going to put a product on shelf. You've got to make sure that product is made available, made visible. So you're going to come up with a new thing called shelf yield. Shelf yield means that product must hit a certain run rate within on shelf, which will give the retailer his margin, his profitability. Now, if your product is doing exceptionally well, and then over a 3-month period you're out of stock, that means that AI will just look at you, look at your position on shelf, and generate a report to the decision maker to say, that product isn't done well, this needs to go. So that AI will start looking at category management, profitability by category, and it will enhance the purchasing requirements for the buyer. So you need to make sure that when you have your strategy laid out, you cannot have out of stocks in future, because that's a killer. The AI will basically, Kasim was talking about building relationships in the market. Right now, those old days of having a relationship with the buyer is going to end, because you cannot have a relationship with AI. That tool is going to generate a lot of basically comments over the next, say, 6 to 8 months. Now, if you've seen what AI has done over the last, say, 1 year, triple that, double that, or triple that, what's going to happen over the next 6 months to 1 year? And that is crucial for anyone entering this market, because the UAE in general is it's either 2 or 3 in the AI world right now. So that needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, it's a rapidly evolving sector globally, but as you said, like we're a society that we live on our phones and use technology and adapt to technology very quickly. Kasim, Ivan was talking about relationships, and it's changing, and we're going to see major changes. But currently, before these changes have been implemented, can you give the audience, the Queensland customers on the call today some insights on best practice for building relationships in the market, as well as some of the key trade shows that you would recommend Queensland companies attend if they're in the food and beverage sector?
Thanks, Emma. We have really great conversation today, and I'm really thankful for everyone's input and insights. And I hope the Queensland companies taking this in consideration, because we don't want you to fail. We want you to succeed and expand in this market. Yes, 3 major events that I would recommend for Queensland companies to consider. One is coming soon, which is the Gulf Food in end of last week of January. Due to Ramadan, every year the dates changes, but this is a large trade fair. It's one of the largest in the world, or actually is the largest annual food show in the world. This year, in January is going to be split between 2 venues, and Queensland, along with Australia and other key partners and stakeholders, we are planning to support you on the ground. The second one is Saudi Food Show, and in 2026 is expected to be mid-June. So that's another show that if you are considering to enter Saudi market. There's so many other niche ones Depends on the products that you have, whether it's more targeting the animal feed, if you talk about agriculture or food tech or agri-tech. And recently we had the Gulf food manufacturing. So there's so many platform for Queensland companies to consider. Now, what's the best practice to enter the market and building relationship? Definitely visiting the market frequently is extremely important. Email sometimes doesn't work. Using WhatsApp, to that basic stuff to communicate and get answers, but always back up your conversation by email so you can get confirmation on what's required, especially when it comes to registering product and getting halal certification and so on. So you can make it clear between the exporter and the importer and the facilitator or regulator. The third point I want to highlight also, first you need to build relationship, trust, and then you start doing business. Start in the UAE. It's a well-established country. Dubai is the hub for business, and then you can expand into other market. Don't miss the point regarding marketing. Marketing is very important. Ivan, Damon, and Bruce has outlined the trends and the opportunities, but also they outlined, the importance of how you're going to navigate your products in market, how you're going to reach, how your product's going to reach every consumer. Social media is big in this part of the world. E-commerce, it's growing. Now, most of the time, I don't go out of the house to buy my non-food products. Everything is delivered within 15 minutes. So e-commerce platform is already in market, but is growing at a fast track. So that's maybe my main advice to companies who wants to do business here. Cash flow, it's another thing. Don't rush to sign a deal with unknown companies. Come back to us for any advice on those one. I've seen companies, unfortunately, they rushed to sign deal with unknown companies. They've been popped up in the market and disappeared after some time. And unfortunately, there was consequences where they haven't been paid for the builds. So work with well-established companies. We have very good example here. They've been in market for many years and they're looking forward to work with every Queensland companies.
Thanks for that advice, Kasim. Look, we have gone over time, but it's just so much useful information that the panel is sharing. So I'm just going to throw one more question to the panel, and I want to talk about the differences between the UAE and Saudi. So we've talked about the product registration requirements, and Miriam's very kindly taken us through that extensively. But Ivan and Damien, perhaps, and Bruce, could you just really quickly share, are there any major differences in terms of product registration between Saudi and the UAE that you're seeing changing or currently in place?
I'll start, Emma. One of the culturally, there's a huge difference in terms of between the UAE and Saudi. The UAE basically is a lot more, should I say, advanced in terms of getting a product into market. Saudi, culturally sensitive of certain products, certain claims. One of the biggest factors between the UAE and Saudi Arabia, Saudi has a market of 35 million. UAE has a market of about 10 million. And the UAE, so bringing into context the marketing, brand building in the UAE, once you build a brand, we've got a floating population in the UAE that basically comes in between an average from 3 to 5 years and they're out again. So when you build up a loyalty in a brand, you basically lost it in about 3 to 5 years. Whereas in Saudi Arabia, you've got a standalone population. So when you build brand loyalty and brand equity in Saudi Arabia and trust, you have for long sales. You do have basically a stand. So you've got to get your strategy differently between the UAE and Saudi. So the UAE, you constantly have to keep building. You constantly have to keep building targeting your certain customer. Whereas in Saudi, once you build it, you just keep it active. And that's a major difference that I find in the UAE and in Saudi and the rest of the markets as well.
And is there anything different in terms of registering products? Do you see a major difference to get a product registered in the UAE versus Saudi?
UAE is a lot easier because they understand you a lot more. In Saudi, I would always say to exporters, always pin Saudi as your market in terms of registering a product, in terms of packaging, in terms of design, in terms of basically claims. Because also Saudi is a market where you really cannot put a lot of claims if it can be proven. Same thing in Dubai. In the UAE also claims, but in Saudi, they are a lot more strict in terms of what you can actually put in your packaging. So I would tend to basically aim Saudi, it has to be English, has to be Arabic, has to have your production expiry dates, and you have to minimize your claims. So aim for Saudi and you will be fine.
Okay, great. Bruce, anything to add there from your experience working across the two regions?
Yeah, definitely. I think Ivan summed it up in relation to the claims, and I think the only thing I can really add is from an organic perspective. Saudi Arabia now has an independent body, one cert. There's a number of them external to Saudi, but internal in Saudi, one cert has to oversee and approve any sort of organic imports. It needs to be basically certified through that body, in addition to whether it's Australian certified organic or EU or USDA, whatever that might be. So that's a key point. The other key point with Saudi Arabia is time. I think one thing that I've noticed dealing with Saudi Arabia is don't expect anything overnight, but when it finally comes through, they are very, I think, relationship orientated, and you're an extension of their family. Once you do land that client or that partner, expect them to be there long term, and the volumes are great.
Great. And Damien, anything to add from your experience?
Yeah, I think Saudi import wise is more restrictive. It can be. We use an SOR and say so in terms of the import regulation piece. So we have a team of 4 people that just spend most of the time at the port or at the airport, making sure that it's cleared. So from that perspective, I think from what the guy said, you need to be very clear on your labeling, make sure that it's not going to cause any issues in terms of import clearance. Saudi and Qatar are the 2 most strict markets in terms of the GCC for importing products, and I would say the due diligence is a lot more strict also. The UAE, in terms of the exporters looking to come to the GCC market, I would say the UAE is definitely the test bed. So utilize the UAE more to get your products into the GCC first. Once you've got it here and you've proven it and people see that it's in market, then it can be easier. I'm not saying it is easy, but it can be easier to export to the different GCC countries.
Great, thank you. And Thomas, from a halal perspective, you did outline a lot in your presentation, but just really quickly, anything you wanted to highlight?
Well, in Saudi Arabia, there is basically a different approach. SFDA is in charge of regulating the halal market through the halal center. So the certifiers there, they have to register with SASO and get the approval from SFDA/halal center to be able to issue a valid halal certificate for companies looking for exporting their products to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And there is also another thing I want to highlight, because as per the SFDA regulation for halal, there is, let's say, a commission. There is a fee that you have to pay to the halal center if you want to export halal products there. So let's say the companies in Queensland, they will pay the halal certification, and then for each batch certificate, they will pay a commission, not to the certifier, through the certifier to the SFDA. So there is also, let's say, a fee, a tariff, a commission there for the SFDA based on, let's say, each export to the kingdom. So this is let's say, another point to take into consideration when you want to export halal family products to Saudi Arabia, because here in the UAE, for example, we don't have that tariff or commission for each export for the batch certificate.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mariam, throwing to you, I mean, obviously you're working within the Dubai jurisdiction, so not necessarily an experience in Saudi, but is there anything that you see that maybe a product's been registered in Saudi and then they're trying to get registered in Dubai? Any key differences that you notice from a product registration point of view?
I will look in regulatory perspective, as we are even in GCC country. However, we are both use different platform for registration. So we always recommend that the food trader to check with each country what is their requirement, labeling, how to import the product before sending their product to this country.
Thank you very much. Well, there is no more time, unfortunately. I have so many more questions I wish I could ask today, but thank you to all of our panelists and speakers for your time, your insights, and generosity in sharing your experiences. And thank you to the attendees for joining us as well. We hope today sparked some ideas, answered some questions. The TIQ Middle East office is here to help you connect with buyers, the panelists, the speakers on the call today. If you have further questions, navigate regulatory requirements and leverage opportunities like Gulf Food, Saudi Food Show, and the UAE Australia CEPA. I will now hand over to Kasim for some final words, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Thanks, Emma. I hope today's session provided insights into the fundamental of halal certification, consumer expectation, the key market trends, regulatory frameworks, practical strategy to enter the market, and how you develop your partnership with potential clients. You know, whether you are new to the halal or new to for export to the Middle East or the UAE, please come back to us, TIQ, whether you're in Brisbane or the Middle East office here, especially Emma, who looks after the agriculture and food sector, please come back to her. Or you can directly reach out to Thomas for any question related to halal and how to develop your halal, certification. Obviously, our panelists today, Ivan, Damon, and Bruce, they're very busy in their day-to-day operation, but they're happy to support you, and they could be a very potential clients. We recommend them as well. And thanks, Mariam. Mariam, as a regulator, she's been always helping us through the year. The Dubai Food Safety Department, they've been extremely helpful for Queensland Australian products entering Dubai. I would also to thank you, Queensland companies who have been on the call today, or you're going to watch the recording later on. And thanks to TIQ team and everyone else. Thank you very much, and looking forward to have you in our market for further discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank you.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Great morning. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.